I shut my car door hard and looked at my own front door like I couldn't believe what I was seeing. There were shoes by the door, a pink scooter lying on its side on the deck, muddy work boots, and a baby stroller leaning against the railing. It looked like someone was living here. But this was my house. I had just driven 14 hours straight from Arizona after I had to come home early. I found my front door wide open and the smell of chicken dinner floating out like someone's mom was cooking inside. A dog was barking inside, but it wasn't my dog. I could hear people laughing and dishes making noise. I walked closer and looked through the window. That's when I saw her, Karen. HOA Karen sitting at my dinner table wearing one of my shirts. Like it belonged to her. Her husband Tom was walking around my kitchen with no shoes on, drinking from a cup I knew came from the green mug set I bought at Walmart. 2 kids were running around in socks on my wooden floors. My hands started shaking because I was so confused and mad. I grabbed the door handle and pushed the door open really hard. It banged against the wall. Karen's head turned toward me fast, and her eyes got really big like a deer when you shine a light on it. "Oh my God," she said, jumping up fast. "What are you doing here?" "What am I doing here?" I yelled. "This is my house. What are you doing here?" Her face went white and she grabbed for her phone. "You're breaking into our house," she screamed. "I'm calling 911. And she did. She actually called the police on me, the guy who owns the house. Let me back up. Hi, I'm Jacob Walker. I'm 45. Years old, my wife died 6 years ago, and I used to be an Army doctor. The ranch is called Stone Pine Ridge, and it's in Colorado about an hour away from town. It's not fancy, but it's mine. My father left it to me, and I've kept it running ever since. I don't belong to any HOA. Actually, this area never had one until the McKinley Estates people moved into the land across the creek and made their own. HOA. They're the fancy kind with gates and speed bumps and rules about what color your mailbox can be. I'm the dirt road type with chickens and a barn full of old stuff. We got along fine at first until Karen showed up. Karen Simons, HOA president. Short blonde hair, always wearing sunglasses on her head like a crown. She lived across the creek, but she never respected boundaries. She started with little things, notes about my messy grass, complaints about the tools I left on the porch that she said looked ugly. She'd walk her dog through my land like it was a public park. 2 weeks ago, I left for Arizona to help my cousin after his surgery. I boarded up the windows, turned off the water, and left my security cameras running. That's when Karen attacked. But I didn't know that yet. On the way back from Arizona, something kept bothering me. I couldn't explain it. Call it a gut feeling. I left earlier than I planned and drove through the night. No phone calls, no texts. I just needed to see the ranch. And now here I was, face to face with Karen calling 911 saying I was breaking into my own house. "Sir, step away from the property!" the taller officer shouted again, his hand hovering close to his gun. I raised both hands slowly and took a careful step back. "This is my house," I said calmly. "My name is Jacob Walker. I live here. They're the ones who broke in." Karen came running down the steps like an actor in a play, with tears already starting in her eyes. "Officers, thank God you're here," she cried. "This man forced his way onto our property. He scared my children." "I have ID," I said, patting my jacket pocket. "And the deed to this house is in my name. You can check the county records." It took 10 more minutes before the officer came back from his car with a different look on his face. He handed me back my ID. "Mr. Walker, we checked the records and—" "You're right. You're the owner of record." I let out a slow breath. But before I could relax, the officer added, "That doesn't explain how they got inside with keys." My eyes got narrow. "What do you mean, keys?" "They didn't break in. No signs of forced entry. The locks matched their keys." I ran to the garage. The side lock had been changed. My spare lockbox was gone. She had replaced my locks. Karen was standing by the doorway holding a folder. She handed it to the officer. "These are our temporary living papers from the McKinley HOA board," she said proudly. "We filed them last week under emergency relocation guidelines." "There is no legal standing," I said. "HOA paperwork doesn't override property deeds." Officers looked through the papers. "This looks unofficial," one said. "You were gone for over a week." Karen got defensive. No lights, no activity. The property looked empty. The HOA had the right to step in. You can't just claim property because people abandon homes, I snapped. The officers stepped between us. Mr. Walker, do you have proof of recent residence? Camera footage? I pulled out my phone and opened the app. The camera feed was blank. Deleted. All logs were wiped. Karen had disabled or destroyed the system. This wasn't just an accident. This was planned. We're not the judge and jury here, the taller officer said. Given what we've seen, Mr. Walker, we recommend filing for emergency removal through the court. You can't force them out today. What do you mean? I yelled. You're telling me I can't walk into my own house? It's a civil matter now. You need an order. Unbelievable. I was locked out of my own house. The next morning, I drove straight to the county courthouse with every document I had: deed, utility bills, photos, maintenance records. I filed for an emergency restraining order and began eviction proceedings immediately. But the most shocking part was what I found later that night in my storage shed. A printed contract with my forged signature. A sale agreement claiming I sold Karen the ranch for $20,000, land worth over $750,000. I drove straight to my lawyer, Linda McKenzie. She looked over the photos and that fake sale contract. Her face got dark. She's not just squatting, Linda said. She's trying to rewrite history. This isn't just civil now. This is criminal, fraud, forgery, even attempted identity theft. By that afternoon, Linda had filed criminal complaints. But Karen wasn't done. She called Channel 7 News. I watched in horror as they aired a segment titled Neighborhood Hero. Rescues abandoned ranch, faces legal dispute with mysterious owner. They showed shots of Karen hugging her kids in front of my barn. By the end of that week, the judge granted a hearing and issued a preliminary order. But 2 nights later, Karen vanished. I found the house completely empty. But she had stripped it bare of my things. My tool shed was empty. My grandfather's shotgun was gone. My camera system had been smashed and dumped in the toilet. I walked into my bedroom and saw writing on the mirror in lipstick. You shouldn't have come back. Then I heard tires on gravel. Karen's SUV was coming back, and behind it 2 more cars. She had gone to get reinforcements. People stepped out wearing HOA compliance officer jackets. Karen marched toward my door with new papers. Jacob, I'm placing you under community compliance violation, she said. We've reissued ownership. Under emergency HOA redevelopment codes, you're trespassing now. I didn't flinch. I took out my phone and pressed record. Say that again. You're calling 911 to report the owner of this ranch for trespassing. The sirens came again. A sheriff's truck rolled up. The lead deputy stepped out and walked to me. Mr. Walker, we reviewed the documents your attorney filed. Your ownership has been verified. He looked at Karen. Ma'am, you and your party need to leave the premises immediately. Karen's mouth dropped. You can't be serious. I called you. This property belongs to Mr. Walker. You are now in violation of a court order. I watched Karen's little empire crumble. But 3 hours later, I got a text from Linda. Karen's claiming she bought the property from a man impersonating you. Now, she's blaming him for the forged paperwork. That's when I walked out back and noticed something by my wife's memorial, a fresh patch of disturbed dirt. I knelt and pulled up a storage bag. Inside were dozens of letters in my handwriting, but they weren't mine. Someone had forged love letters from me to Karen planted by the grave of my wife. I sat across from Sheriff Donnelly, the fake letters between us. This woman isn't just squatting, he muttered. She's building a full-blown fantasy. Linda called while I was still at the station. I've been digging into Karen's background. She's done this before. Back in Utah. Same pattern. At the official hearing, Karen tried to argue she was misled by a man who pretended to be me. I truly believed he loved me, she said, pointing to the forged letters. The judge ruled in my favor immediately. Karen was evicted, criminal charges filed, restraining order granted. But when I returned home, someone had broken in again. This time they destroyed everything. My wife's wedding dress was shredded and pinned to the wall with a knife. The sheriff found a wooden crate buried behind my barn. Inside were my stolen belongings and a burner phone with recordings. Karen's voice, her brother Dean's voice, planning the whole thing. "Just make it look like he invited you," Dean said, on the recording. Guys like that, lonely widowers, they can't prove otherwise. Sheriff Donnelly issued warrants for both Karen and Dean. That woman didn't just cross the line, she built a whole new one. They caught Dean at a highway checkpoint. But Karen? She's still out there somewhere. The ranch is quiet now, secured. Mine again. But I sleep with my shotgun across my lap, listening to every sound in the night. Some battles you win, some scars never heal.